Alright, we gotta talk about this. So this new AI agent called Clawdbot took over the AI world in the past few days. It has gone super viral, but a lot of people still don't really know what this is, or what it can and cannot do. So in this video, I'm gonna go over what exactly this is, what it can do, how to install it, what are some actual use cases for this, and what you need to be aware of. Make sure you watch to the end because there are a ton of security and privacy vulnerabilities that you need to know before actually installing and using this. Let's jump right in. Alright, so first of all, what exactly is Clawdbot? Think of this as an AI agent, but it actually remembers things, it can access your files if you give it access, and it can run 24/7 on your device or a server. And you can reach it via Telegram or WhatsApp or other chat apps. This is essentially Clawdbot. It potentially has access to your email or even your files on your computer. It doesn't just live in a browser tab, which you'll close in 5 minutes. This is what makes it unique and different from other AI agents you've seen before. And I think that's what made it go viral in the past few days. And the really awesome thing about this is the code is free and open source. So for example, you can see the entire codebase on this GitHub, and you can choose to link it to whichever AI model provider you want, or whatever chatbot you want as well. Now, pretty much all of these so-called AI influencers or channels are hyping this up like hell. They're saying, oh my god, this is AGI. This is absolutely insane. This is the best AI I've ever used. And you can see the average search volume for the term Clawdbot has even surpassed Anthropic's Claude Code. The crazy thing is there are rumors that you need a Mac Mini to run a Clawdbot, which is absolutely not true. But because of these so-called AI gurus or influencers saying this, a ton of people were like rushing to buy Mac Minis. And you can see the search volume for Mac Mini has jumped up in the past 4 days, according to Google Trends. I mean, everything is just really overhyped and there's so much misinformation everywhere. And that's why I made this video, so you can get a realistic sense of what this actually can do for you. Now, what can you actually use this for? Let's first cut through the hype and clear things up. Clawdbot ain't gonna build you a unicorn startup overnight, but it does help you automate research or repetitive tasks that could potentially save you hours every day. Here are some practical examples. You can link it to Gmail and then ask it to summarize your unread messages and draft responses. Or you can connect it to your Google Calendar and just prompt it to help you book a meeting with John next Tuesday at 2 p.m. And it'll actually check Google Calendar for conflicts and then add the event or potentially even send you reminders. You can even get it to trade prediction markets for you. You can also get it to automate tasks across your different platforms, such as Notion or Trello, etc. You can also link it to your social media, such as X, and then get it to automatically research content to post, and then automatically and regularly post things on X. You can also even potentially use this for smart home control. Like you can just prompt it on Telegram to turn off your lights and check the thermostat at your house. You can also link it to your smart devices like Whoop and then prompt it via Telegram or WhatsApp to give me a daily briefing of your Whoop data and also traffic alerts and weather, for example. All of these use cases work given that you link it correctly to, the source provider. Now, if you are interested in setting this up, let me go over how to actually install it and also go over an example of how to link everything so you can get a realistic sense of how this works. By the way, for your information, as I'm recording this, Peter Steinberger, which is the sole founder and creator of Clawdbot, was forced by Anthropic to rename this to Moltbot. So rest in peace, Clawdbot. Right now it's actually called Moltbot. Anyways, here's how to install it. First of all, you don't need a Mac Mini to run this at all, contrary to what some gurus claim. In fact, if you are going to buy some hardware, I highly recommend you buy a device with an NVIDIA CUDA GPU with at least 16 gigabytes of VRAM. Most AI models and tools run best with a CUDA GPU, not any Apple devices. And even if you don't have any hardware, we can just set this up on a free AWS server, which is what I'm going to show you right now. Simply go to aws.amazon.com, which I'll link to in the description below. And first, you do need to create an account if you don't have one already, so you'll need to input your personal information. It might ask you to add some payment details, so you'll need to add in your credit card. It's not going to charge you anything. What I'm going to show you in this video only uses the free tier. Alright, afterwards you should see this dashboard. So let's click on EC2 to create a new server. And then up here, let's click on Launch Instance. Now it should bring you to this page. First of all, you need to name your server. So let's call this something like Claude. And then we are going to select Ubuntu. And then down here for instance type, let's expand this dropdown. And then in the search bar at the top here, type in free to only search for the free options. And then you can see a couple options here. We are going to use the one with the most memory. You can see this one has 8 gigabytes of memory. So we are going to use this one, M71 Flex Large. And then you can configure this further, but for the purpose of this tutorial, that's pretty much it. So let's click on Launch Instance. And here, yes, let's create a new key pair. You won't need it for this tutorial per se, but it's still best to save this somewhere in case you need to use it in the future. So let's just call this key pair like Claude or something, and then click on Launch Instance. And it's going to prompt you to download this PEM file, which houses your key pair. Anyways, let me click save, and then afterwards you should see this success message, successfully initiated the launch of this instance. So let's click on this instance, which should take you to this page. By the way, if you don't see this page, what you can also do is click on this left sidebar, and then under EC2, click on instances, and you should see your instance listed over here. So simply click on the instance, and then at the top right, click on connect, and then down here, click on connect again. And this will basically open up the terminal of your AWS server. Now, the next step is we simply need to go to Clawdbot's official website and then just paste in this one-liner into our AWS terminal. Now, if you do see Windows, you do need to change this to macOS first. So the command should start with curl. So let me just copy this line and then back to our AWS server. Note that in order to paste the line in, Control V doesn't work. What you need to do is press Control and Shift and then V. So afterwards, let's press enter, and it's going to proceed to download Clawdbot or Moltbot. All right, afterwards, you should see this. So it's still called Clawdbot at the moment. Maybe it's going to change to Moltbot soon. It's going to ask you this question. I understand this is powerful and inherently risky. Continue. Let's press yes. And then, yes, I'm going to do this quick start mode. And then for the model provider, of course, I'm going to go with Anthropic. Hell no. Did you actually think I was going to use Anthropic? There are way better options such as Minimax and ZAI, which are way cheaper, but just as capable as GPT or Claude. So I'm going to choose ZAI for this one. So let's press enter, and here it's going to prompt me to use a ZAI API key. By the way, here's a quick comparison. If you look at the performance of ZAI's GLM 4.7, it's pretty much on par with Anthropic's best and largest model, Claude Opus 4.5. But get this, it only costs $8 for 3 months. Keep this number in mind. If you look at Anthropic's paid plans, the lowest one costs $17 per month. Plus, it's really easy to hit rate limits. So honestly, everyone who's telling you to use Claude Opus for the AI model provider for Clawdbot, they are ripping you off. I mean, ZAI just has a much better deal and it's just as performant. Anyways, once you subscribe to a ZAI plan, you can then proceed to create a new API key. So let's create a new API key. Let's call this Claude and then press confirm. Don't share this key with anyone. I'm going to delete this after I publish the video. Anyways, you can then copy this API key and then back to your AWS server terminal. Here, when it asks you to input your ZAI API key, let's press enter. And then again, to paste it in, you need to press Control, Shift, and V. So let's do that and then press enter. And then here's where you can select the model that you want to use. It's recommended to use the latest and best model, GLM 4.7. So let's press enter. And then here is where we can select the channel that we want to use to talk to Clawdbot. There are a ton of options you can choose from, such as Telegram, WhatsApp, Discord, Google Chat, Slack, Signal, iMessage, Nostr, etc. But I'm going to show you Telegram for this tutorial. So let's press enter. And then afterwards, here are the instructions. We need to open up Telegram and then start a chat with botfather. So I'm going to search for @botfather, and then let's choose this one, and then press start. Now, going back to the instructions here, I need to run /new bot. So let me type this in really quickly, /new bot, and then press enter. And then here I need to choose a name for my bot. So let's call this lobby. And then I also need to pick a username. So let's do like lobby the lobster bot. Notice that it must end in bot. So let's see if this works. Unfortunately, this is already taken, so I need to enter another name. Let's try something like lobby AIS test bot, and then press enter. So that works, and then next it proceeds to give me this token. So I can just click on this to copy the token, and then back to my AWS server, let me paste this in by pressing Ctrl Shift and V, and then press enter. And then next it's going to ask me to configure skills. So you can choose to click yes if you want, show Hebrew install command, let's choose yes. For the preferred node manager, I'm just going to choose npm. And then here is where you can install some of these skills. For example, we have GOG over here, which helps you connect to Gmail and Calendar, Google Drive, etc. I don't actually recommend this, which I'll talk about in a second. But then we also have this skill, which allows you to use Nano Banana Pro, this skill, which allows you to use Obsidian, this one, which allows you to use OpenAI's Whisper for transcription, etc., etc. Anyways, for the sake of this tutorial, let's just skip this for now. So I'm going to press space here to check this box and then press enter. And then it's going to ask me if I want to set the API keys for these additional platforms like Google Places, which I will select no, no, and then Gemini API key for Nano Banana Pro. Let's just set this to no for now. OpenAI API key for OpenAI Image Gen. Again, I'm just going to select no for all of these. Enable hooks. Let's also select skip for now and then press enter. And then afterwards, it's going to hatch the TUI or basically start Clawdbot on the server. So let's press enter and see what happens next. All right, then it proceeds to ask me, what should you call me? I'm also curious to know who I'm working with. So let's write, you are called Lobby the lobster, and I am called Bob. And then it asks, what creature am I? So let's write, you are my smart executive assistant. And that's pretty much it. So you'll need to keep this terminal on to run Lobby the Lobster. Again, this AI basically runs 24/7 as long as you keep the server on. And you can ping it anytime via Telegram or WhatsApp to ask it to do stuff. So next, going back to our Telegram, notice that here it has given me a link to where I can chat with my Clawdbot. So let's click on this link, which will start a new chat. Let's press start. And for the first time we press start, we need to actually input this pairing code, and we need to type it in like this. So it's going to be Clawdbot pairing, and then approve Telegram, and then we need to add the pairing code over here. So let me copy this line, and note that over here, I'm within a chat with my Clawdbot. I'm not like outside. So what I actually need to do is, if I want to preserve this chat, back in my AWS instances dashboard, I need to connect to a new instance. So let's click on connect and then connect again. So this is going to open up another terminal, and here is where I can paste in the command to pair my Clawdbot with my Telegram. So let's press enter and wait for this to complete. All right, afterwards, it should finish pairing. And now if I type, hi, what's my name? It should respond to me. And here we go. It responds Bob. And that's pretty much it. You can now talk to your lobster bot anytime on Telegram as long as you have this instance open on your AWS server. I've been covering a lot of AI image and video tools lately, and one thing that has always been missing is real motion design with actual control. But Higgsfield, the sponsor of this video, is launching a game changer technically called Higgsfield Vibe Motion. And here's how it works. You start with a prompt and you can optionally add a reference image or video, and Higgsfield then generates a professional polished motion design right away. It's kind of like vibe coding, but instead of coding an app, you're making a video. And here's my favorite part. Instead of exporting and starting over, you can iterate instantly. Simply prompt it to adjust the timing, motion intensity, layout behavior, topography, and more. You can also upload your logo or brand kit for your generations to align with your branding. This is perfect for making promotional content. Motion design is usually the slowest and most expensive part of the creative process, but this new feature makes it a breeze. Higgsfield is also integrating Claude from Anthropic under the hood, so these workflows are becoming even more agentic and powerful. This is dropping very soon, so hit the link in the description below to explore Higgsfield and be the first in line when Higgsfield Vibe Motion goes live. Now, by itself, Clawdbot can't actually do much. In fact, it doesn't even have internet access yet. For example, if you get it to summarize the top 3 AI news today, for example, you can see that web search is disabled, and most of the major AI news sites actually have strong anti-bot measures. So you actually need to do some additional steps to enable web search. So actually what we need to do is back to our terminal, which is outside the Clawdbot chat. Again, if you don't have this terminal, then you can go back to your E2 instance and then click on connect and then connect again. Anyways, back here, you need to paste in this line, which I will add in the description below so you can just copy and paste it. But it's basically Clawdbot configure -- section and then web. And then let's press enter. And yes, this is going to run locally on this machine. Yes, let's enable web search by Brave Search. So let's press yes. And then here is where we need to enter a Brave Search API key. So here is where all the other AI influencers again omit this super important step. You actually need to sign up for a Brave API account, and it is free. You get 2,000 queries per month, but you do need to sign up and get an API key to actually give your Lobster internet access. So let's click on sign up. And then afterwards, you should see this dashboard. So we'll need to click on API keys. And then if it's your first time, you need to click on see plans. And again, here, even on the free plan, you need to click on subscribe and then enter your payment details for this to work. So there's actually a ton of steps involved here. Let me first enter my credit card information. All right, after you have successfully subscribed for the free plan, then you can go to API keys and then click on add API key over here. And then here, let's call this Claude, and then yes, I'm going to use the free subscription and then press add. Now again, this is really important. Note that the free plan only has 2,000 requests per month. Anyways, let's copy this API key and then back to our AWS terminal. Let's paste this API key in over here. And then it's going to ask me, should I enable web fetch? Let's press yes. And you should see configure complete and then this line again with no error messages. And that's how you can give Clawdbot internet access. So back to my Telegram chat, I can then ask it to use Brave Web Search and summarize the top 3 AI news today. And let's see what it gives me. Perfect. So here it gives me the 3 top AI stories today. Now, of course, there's a lot more stuff you can do with Clawdbot. So next, I'm going to show you how to set up skills in Clawdbot. If you go to the homepage and click on skills and plugins, there's this directory called Clawdhub. So if you click on this, it basically lists a ton of skills that other people have created, which you can add to Clawdhub to get it to do certain things. For example, let's browse skills. And if I sort this by the most downloads, note that here we have this self-improving agent, so you can add this skill to your Clawdbot, and this basically helps it learn from its errors and what you prefer for continuous improvement. In addition, we have this WhatsApp CLI, which allows you to basically connect Clawdbot to WhatsApp. We also have this agent browser, which does headless browser automation. We also have this remind me skill, which basically sends reminders to you by creating these cron jobs. We also have this home assistant, which can help you, control your smart plugs or lights or other smart home stuff. This bird skill is used to search for and post stuff on Twitter. We also have weather. We also have this one to connect to your GitHub, etc., etc. So there are a ton of skills you can choose from, and you can also just prompt your Lobster to create your own custom skill. Anyways, let's first go over how to set this up. So down here, in order to install Clawdhub, you just need to copy and paste this line. So let's copy this. And again, in your AWS instance, which does not have Clawdbot running, so it's this one, not this one, simply paste this line in and then press enter. And it's going to proceed to download Clawdhub. And that's all you need to do. Now let's go over a really quick one. Let's just add this remind me skill to our Lobster so I can get it to set reminders for me. Now this time, instead of me manually pasting in code in my terminal, I'm just going to prompt my Lobster to do this for me via Telegram. So I'm just going to write, help me install this Clawdhub skill. Remind me, and then press enter. And because I've given it internet access previously, if it doesn't know how to do this, it would autonomously search the web to figure out how to do this and also autonomously troubleshoot any errors that it hits. It's really easy. All right, so it took it like 3 minutes, but afterwards you can see the remind me skill is installed and configured. Really cool. So right now it's 11 a.m. Just as a quick test, let's get it to create a daily reminder at 11:10 a.m. PST for me to touch grass. Message me on Telegram. So let's press enter, and you can see it's kind of like your personal assistant or secretary. You can just ask it to remind you to do certain tasks every day. Now this is just a really quick and easy example, but you can also get it to send you a summary of, the top AI news every morning at 8 a.m. Or you can also connect it to Gmail, which I don't recommend, which I'll talk about in a second. But if you do that, you can also just ask it to summarize all your unread messages and draft responses for all of them every morning right when you wake up. So it can help you automate a ton of repetitive stuff which would otherwise take you a few hours every day. Alright, so here it says done. Your daily reminder is set. It's going to remind me to touch grass at 11:10 a.m. on Telegram. And the next one is in about 4 minutes. Right now it's 11:07, so let's see what happens at 11:10. And look at this. It also noticed it was using the wrong CLI path and parameters, so it just automatically corrected itself. Pretty crazy. Alright, and as you can see, it's now 11:10, and it has sent me a reminder to touch grass. Very cool. Now, those were some quick examples. Let me know in the comments if you are impressed or not so impressed by it so far. It's basically a chatbot which can run 24/7 and you can ping it anytime to do anything, or it can also automate a ton of tasks for you. Alright, now there are a few additional things that you have to be aware of whenever you install any skill or download anything from the web, or basically whenever you get Clawdbot to change some settings or configurations. Now again, to run these commands, you can't run it in your existing server with Clawdbot open. So let's open up a new terminal by setting up another connection with our E2 instance. So let's press connect and then connect. All right, now the first line you should be familiar with is Clawdbot Doctor. This is a maintenance function which is used to verify the bot's health and configuration. It makes sure nothing is broken and you're not subject to any vulnerabilities. It's highly recommended that you run this command after any configuration changes to ensure that, your setup remains stable and secure. For example, here you can see that it has not found any channel security warnings, it has found some missing requirements, etc., etc. And if you do receive some errors or warnings, well, you can just run this command, Clawdbot doctor --fix, to basically automatically fix it for you. Another really important function that you need to use, especially when you install any external stuff, is Clawdbot security audit. And like the name implies, this command basically scans your instance for any critical vulnerabilities. This is super important, and make sure you do this because a ton of non-technical users have been found just running Clawdbot on the open internet without any authentication, and this means they've potentially exposed their API keys, exposed their email access, or even access to their local system files. So make sure you run this step, and as you can see here, we see 0 critical security vulnerabilities, which is great. We do see 2 warnings, so if you want to fix this, you can just copy this message into your Telegram chatbot, and it would fix it for you. Both these functions, Clawdbot security audit and Clawdbot doctor, are super important, so make sure you run this regularly if you do plan to use Clawdbot. Alright, now here's the thing that pretty much no AI influencer out there talks about, which is the security and privacy vulnerabilities of this system. First of all, when you link your Gmail or Google Drive to Clawdbot, you're essentially giving the AI model permissions to read or edit whatever you have. So there's a small but non-zero chance that it could mess things up or randomly send emails or even delete all your records. And if it reads or opens an email with a prompt injection hack, in other words, if there's a secret prompt that's hidden in the email that can steer your AI model in the wrong direction, this could be really bad for you. Again, the chance is low, but it's not impossible. So if you do link it to your Gmail, keep this in mind. And that's why in this video, I did not show you how to link it to Gmail. I actually would not recommend you link it to any email because prompt injection attacks by email are on the rise. Now, in this video, I showed you how to set up Clawdbot on an AWS virtual server, which is basically just an empty machine. You could set this up on your computer and give it what they call full system access. But again, I highly recommend against this because if you just install Clawdbot locally on your computer without any restrictions, without putting it in a sandbox environment, it potentially has access to all your files and folders on your computer. The AI model could potentially go rogue and mess up your files or even potentially delete everything. The chance is low, but it's not impossible, so keep that in mind. If you do end up installing Clawdbot on your machine, make sure to put it in an isolated sandbox environment or add some restrictions. Here's another thing to keep in mind. If you're using one of these external AI providers, whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic or Minimax, GLM, etc., all your prompts and chat history are sent to their servers. This is not exactly private. Even though Clawdbot, which is just a framework on top of this, is open source and it's running locally on your server or on your computer, whenever you send chats through to the AI model to process, all your information is basically sent to their servers. It's not private at all. And there are claims of, Anthropic automatically reporting people to the FBI if it detects anything sus in their chats. So keep that in mind. Any data you send through to an AI model from an external provider is not private and secure. The only solution is to run a local model on your computer instead. Now, fortunately, there's a really easy solution to this, which is to use Ollama to download a smaller but local model like Qwen or Gemma or Llama. For example, Qwen 3.4b is only like 2.5 gigabytes, so you can easily run this on your local device with like 4 gigabytes of VRAM. And the really nice thing about Clawdbot is you don't actually need to manually set this up yourself. Once you set up Clawdbot, you can just copy and paste this URL, and assuming you're running this on your local computer, well, you can just tell it to set up Ollama and add Qwen 3.4b, and then just give it a link, and it would autonomously do the entire setup for you and verify that everything works. If you want true data privacy, this is the only option. Once you send your prompts to an external provider, it's not exactly private. They potentially have access to your information. Now that sums up how you can set up the basic stuff for Clawdbot. Notice that I had to go through a ton of different technical steps. All these influencers say you can just set it up in a few minutes. This is not correct. There's a ton of things you need to do. You need to go through a ton of platforms and enter your payment details and get API keys. It's not as simple as you might think. That being said, it is really useful if you want to like just ping an AI chatbot on Telegram or whatever to help you do research or send you daily reminders on certain things or help automate tasks. Next, you might be wondering, well, aren't there some existing options? Why is this lobster going so viral? What about Claude Code or Claude Cowork or other AI agents like GenSpark or Manus? Can't they do this already? And here's why I think Clawdbot, while this is a really useful tool, it's free and open source, the community is awesome, it's currently way too overhyped. People seem to be shocked that Clawdbot can do all this stuff. Well, actually, we already have existing options. For example, if you want to automate posts on X or other social media platforms by first doing web research and then plugging it through an AI to write out the post and then posting it on the social media platform, well, N8N can already do this. So here's an example of a workflow that I used like last year. You can also get this to like regularly scrape the web for news and then run it through AI models to automatically write and post articles for you on your website. So here's another sample workflow, and this, I believe, runs every day. Again, you can already do all of this stuff on N8N. Or if you really want to talk to an AI chatbot on Telegram or WhatsApp, well, you can also kind of connect Claude or any other agent to Telegram already. It does require some technical setup, but you can already do this. And if you want to connect an AI agent to your Gmail, well, the top agents out there like GenSpark or Manus already has these features built in. For example, GenSpark has this AI inbox where you can add your email account and then set up an AI agent to do stuff for you. Manus also allows you to connect their AI agent to Gmail, Calendar, Google Drive, and a ton of other platforms. So Clawdbot is nothing revolutionary. Like, we already have a ton of these features before. Anyways, that sums up my honest review and tutorial on Clawdbot. It is very useful, it's open source, this can run 24/7 on a server or device, and it can help you do a ton of stuff. However, that being said, it does require a ton of steps to set up, so if you're not technical and you're not rigorous about the security details of your setup, it could be vulnerable to prompt injections or other types of hacks, which would give you a ton of headaches. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you think of this, and if you have been playing around with Clawdbot, what are some actually useful use cases that you've implemented with this? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you, so if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week, I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel, so to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.